This is Ms. Miner, and we are going to work on assignment 4E today. And our goal for today is to be able to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, slope-intercept form, oh boy, here we go. Let me make sure I've got some pen here. Okay, slope-intercept form, remember, is a linear equation in this form where y equals mx plus b, where m, the letter m, represents my slope, and the letter b represents my y-intercept. And I'm just going to abbreviate the word intercept there. And the reason why this is the slope-intercept form is because I can tell what my slope is, and I can tell what my y-intercept is. I'm looking for these two numbers here in this equation. Remember, any letter in a formula just represents a number. So we are looking to be able to write this equation from anything that we're given. If I give you a graph, I want you to write the equation. If I give you a table, I want you to be able to write the equation. If I give you 2 points from the line, I want you to be able to write the equation. So we've been practicing finding the slope and finding the y-intercept now. And so we're going to kind of put everything back together to be able to write our equation. And so for each one of these, the answer is going to be the equation. So a good place to start is just writing out y equals blank x plus blank. This part right here. That's what I want my equation to look like at the end. So that's my answer. That's what my answer is going to look like. And in order to get my answer, I need to find the slope and put that number here. And I need to find my y-intercept and put that number here. Okay, so that's kind of where we're going to start. And so I need two things, right? I need to find the slope, and I'm just going to put it over here. In order to write this equation, I need the slope. This is what I'll do. I'll write it underneath. And then I need to find the y-intercept. Okay. So in your notes, if you look at your notes, we have 2 pages in there that are going to be super important for this lesson. And it's the page that says slope really big on it. And then there's a page that says y-intercept really big on it. And those are kind of our procedures. And we're going to use those pages in our notes to be able to come up with these 2 things. And I'm just going to go straight down and use my notes to be able to get what I need. Okay, so from a graph, the first thing I want to do is find the slope. And remember, the slope is the rise divided by the run. We use this ratio of rise to run in order to be able to determine what our slope is. And so the first thing that I want to do from the graph is pick 2 good points on the graph. And it doesn't matter which ones I pick. I just need 2 good points on this graph. And they have to be points where my x value is a number and my y value is a number, a whole number, right? I can't pick a point in here because then my x value is kind of like it's not right on one of these grid marks. It's kind of a fraction in the middle. And so I don't want to pick a number that's a fraction. I want to pick a point that's right on one of these grid lines and right on one of these horizontal grid lines, because then my x number is a whole number. In fact, my x number right here is 4 and my y number here is 4. Okay, so I'm looking for those whole numbers. That's what makes a good point. Okay, in order to find my slope, the first thing that I need to do is pick 2 good points on the line. And then I'm just going to draw a step from one of those points to the second point. I'm going to draw in a little step, make it a right triangle, and I'm just going to follow the grid lines in order to be able to do that. And then I have to count my rising up part, and my rising up part is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes tall. So my rise is 5. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing for my run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My run is 10 wide. And so my slope is the fraction rise over run, which would be 5 over 10. And then I just simplify and get 1/2. That is my slope. That's the number I'm looking for right there. Then I've got to find my y-intercept. And so I'm kind of looking in my notes where it says how to find y-intercept from a graph. And the first thing that I want to do is locate the y-axis. Here's my y-axis running down the middle of my graph right here. And then I need to find the point where my line is crossing that y-axis. And that point is where y is equal to 2. That's my number there. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And that's my answer. All right, so from a graph, it's pretty easy. The two things I need to identify are the slope and the y-intercept. And those are the two things that we're going to be finding from all of our information. From a graph, I can look at the graph and use the graph to help me find those two pieces of information in order to be able to write the equation. Okay, if I have a point and a slope, this is what we've been working on recently. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to take my slope and one set and put it into my equation y equals mx plus b. And that is my slope-intercept form of my equation. And so I've kind of just created this workspace where I've written my equation out here, y equals mx plus b, and then I've just made these be blank boxes because I'm going to put in the information that I have and solve to be able to find out what my y-intercept is. And remember, b is the letter that we use to represent our y-intercept. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for. My answer is going to be the equation. So once I know the slope and the y-intercept, right, those are the two things I need to be able to write this equation, then I'll be done. Well, I already know one of these things because it was given to me, right? The slope here is 3, and so I can put that in my equation right away. That was part of the information that was given to me. The other part of this, my y-intercept, I have to solve for. So I'm going to put in my slope into this equation as well, and then I'm going to take the point and use it as an xy value in my equation in order to be able to solve for my y-intercept. Now remember, these two numbers are always multiplying, so I simplify first by multiplying m and x together. So 3 times -5 is -15, plus b is equal to 6. Then I want to solve this equation. This is just a basic one-step equation that I'm going to solve to find b. This is going to go to 0. And b is equal to 21. There's my y-intercept, and there's my equation. So I'm done. And so we're just looking for these two parts of our equation so that we can write the equation that represents this line. And this equation represents the whole line that if I drew it out on the graph, it would have this slope of 3, and it would cross through this point on the graph. That would be one of the good points that would be on the graph. Okay. So now, what if I'm not given a slope? Well, remember, the two things that I need to find are the slope and the y-intercept. Those are the two parts of this that I need in order to be able to write the equation. Well, when I have 2 points, the first thing that I need to do in order to be able to find the y-intercept and the equation, I have to find the slope. I have to know what this number is. So I'm going to find the slope from these 2 points by just creating an xy table out of them, where this is x and this is y, and I'm just going to put these numbers on my xy table. Here's the x, here's the y. And the first thing I do is find the slope. So I have to find out how much did it change in its y value, right? Slope is the rise over the run. My y values represent the rise because my y-axis on my graph is the axis that goes up and down, right? So my y-axis right here is the one that goes up and down. So my change in my y values is going to represent how much it's rising up. From 9 to 3, I got to go back to my pen here. So this graph started at the y value of 9 and ended up at the y value of 3. So it was decreasing by 6. So that's my rise. I'm going to put that over here. Oh, well, then it's going to run into, hold please. Then it's going to run into let me give myself a little bit more room here. There we go. Okay. So my rise then was 6. And that's going to go over my run, which is the change in my x values. My x-axis is the axis that goes across the graph. And so it's telling me how wide my step would be, or how much it changed in the distance across the graph. So that started at -5 and went to 1. So it increased by 6. So that's the number that goes on there. Sorry, that was supposed to be a -6. So I find the change in the rise, I find the change in the run, and then I write my ratio of rise to run, and then I simplify, and so my slope is going to be -1. -6 divided by 6 is -1. Now that I know my slope, I can use my slope in order to find my y-intercept. So first thing, find your slope, then pick one of your points up here and use that x and y to be able to solve to find your y-intercept. These are always multiplying. So this is going to be -1 plus b is equal to 3. And I add 1 to both sides to get b by itself. B is equal to 4. There's my y-intercept. There's my equation. And now I'm done. So 2 parts of this. If I want to write a slope-intercept equation, I first have to find the slope. Then I have to find the y-intercept. So 2 parts of this. And we've practiced each of these things individually, and now we're putting them back in together to do everything all together. Okay, so what if I'm just given my slope and my y-intercept and I just want to write an equation? We'll start out by writing y equals blank x plus blank, right? And fill in the numbers. And this is what I want as my answer every single time. Y equals blank x plus blank. If I'm given a slope, then all I have to do is put the slope in where the slope goes. And if I'm given a y-intercept, I just have to put the y-intercept in where the y-intercept goes. So my equation would be y equals -2x minus 9. And that would be my answer. If I have an equation that is not in slope-intercept form, I have to solve it to get y all by itself. So for this bottom equation, this is an example of an equation that's not solved for y. So anytime I have fractions in an equation, remember from like Unit 1 when we first started working with equations, all I have to do is get rid of those fractions. That's the first part that I would do here. In order to be able to solve this equation for y, I'd just take this whole entire equation and multiply it by 20. Because that's going to cancel out all of these other fractions in there, right? This is going to get multiplied by 20. I'm just kind of distributing this out. This is going to get multiplied by 20. This is going to get multiplied by 20. And so I'm going to end up with -20. is equal to, these are going to cancel, 1x. This is going to go into that 5 times minus 5y. So now I have an equation that I don't have to work with fractions, and I can just go ahead and solve it for y, get y by itself. And if you haven't already written your equation solving steps in your notes, you should definitely do that. Get rid of any extra x's. That's always with addition and subtraction. Then get rid of any numbers that are not connected to your variable. Let's put not connected numbers. I call those hostages. So that's another way that I reference those numbers. And that's always with addition or subtraction. And then the last thing I do is get rid of any number that is connected to my variable. And that's always dividing. So those are my equation solving steps. Those haven't changed. We've been using those since Unit 1. Make sure that you are feeling confident with this stuff. If not, please join me or Mrs. Zeider for our Google Meet, or come and see us before or after school. So in this, I'm going to solve this for y. I'm going to get y alone. So first thing I want to do is get rid of any extra x's that I have. So I'm going to rewrite this equation so I kind of have some more room to solve it. Okay, so I have 1x. I'm going to subtract 1x from each side. It's going to cancel over here, and I'm going to get negative 5y is equal to negative 1x minus 20. And I don't have any extra hostages here, so I can go ahead and check that box. But I do have a number that's connected to my variable right here. And so I'm just going to divide everything by negative 5 to get rid of it. This is going to cancel, and y is going to be equal to 4. And that's going to be a 1/5 x. Once I have my equation in slope-intercept form, that's what I'm looking for, right? Then I can determine, here's my slope. Here, I have totally led you astray. I take that back. Here's my y-intercept. Here's my slope. This equation is a little bit backwards because I've got y on the right-hand side. I usually have y over on the left-hand side like this one. But remember, my slope is always the number that's paired with the x, right? Y equals mx plus b. And so this is my slope. And this is my y-intercept. So I can determine what those numbers are if I need to. Okay, so today our goal is just to be able to get this equation, y equals mx plus b. That's our whole goal, to be able to write that equation. And don't forget that no matter what, I just need to find the slope. That's the first thing I want to do. And then the second thing I want to do is find the y-intercept. If you're having trouble with either of these things, if you're having trouble finding slope, or if you're having trouble finding the y-intercept, then go back and rewatch the videos on finding the slope or finding the y-intercept and review those sections so that you can go back through and find those two things. That's what I need to be able to write a slope-intercept equation. All right, good luck, guys. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me or Mrs. Zeider.